Whenever I first got married, I was the kind of person that always said I did not know how to cook. And to be truthful, I did not know how to cook. That was not even a lie. My husband did most of the cooking for about the first 1 to 2 years of our marriage. And then I decided that I wanted to do paleo very strictly for 6 months. And whenever I did that, I of course had to learn how to cook. I say all of that because I wanted to make a video about how to eat from scratch and how to go through the process of learning how to cook, because I think that this is something that not a lot of people talk about online. I think a lot of people just assume that people they watch on the internet always knew how to cook. That is definitely not the case for me. I am still learning. I make mistakes in this video, but I want to talk about what that process looked like. Right now, I am making one of the meals that my friend calls her party trick because it is just the easiest, best tasting meal, and it's, like I said, so easy. So this is the Instant Pot buffalo chicken tacos with a homemade ranch. You can find this recipe on Pinch of Yum. I love her recipes because they are so tasty but not overly complicated. I find that some recipes are definitely overly complicated, which I actually will get to in a second, but these ones are not. And this ranch and the tacos can both be found there at pinchofyum.com. Okay, so I want to get back into my cooking journey. Like I said, I decided that I wanted to do the paleo diet, which, if you're not familiar, it's pretty rigid, it's pretty strict, and offers very minimal opportunities to have someone else cook for you. So whenever I decided that, it was pretty much that for 6 months we weren't going to be eating out. There was going to be no really fast meals. They were all going to be cooked by me. I discovered this blogger called Paleo Running Mama. Her recipes are a little more, they hold your hand through them a little more. So while I was beginning to learn how to cook, this was actually really good. A Pinch of Yum recipe might have been a little bit too concise for that era of my skill level, whereas this Paleo Running Mama, which now I would call them very complicated recipes, they were really good for teaching me exactly every single step that needed to happen for me to make a pretty simple meal. Because I am newly postpartum, I am all about easy ways to incorporate healthy routines into my life. One way that I am doing that is by using Rise Mushroom Coffee, who happens to be the sponsor of today's video. Rise focuses on healthy, sustainable energy while keeping the comfortable coffee flavor that I crave. Thanks to their Super 6 mushroom blend, which contains 2,000 milligrams of USA-grown functional mushrooms, you can get a whole host of brain and body benefits. Rise gives me sustained energy, sharper focus, and it has added fiber for digestive support. Like I said, Rise has that comfortable coffee flavor that I crave, so I love that this is not a supplement overload, but it's actually a ritual that I thoroughly enjoy. Even just the process of making the Rise coffee without all the benefits, which they do have, would be so beneficial to me, but I have that added benefit of adding multiple functional mushrooms into my daily routine. I love that it is 0 sugar, dairy-free, and gluten-free, and that I can customize this however I want. It's easy to make it hot or iced, and it is so tasty. If you are like me and your morning routine could use a healthy swap and some serious benefits, make sure to check out Rise Mushroom Coffee. You can use the link in my description. Thanks so much to Rise for sponsoring today's video. I got the buffalo chicken all the way shredded and put into a glass container stored with the juices so that later that night we could just whip out some homemade corn tortillas that were in the freezer and assemble our tacos. It was a really easy way to have dinner all the way done by around 11 a.m. Something I have definitely not perfected is baking. I'm just so bad at baking. I honestly didn't know it was possible to be this bad at baking. You guys will see how these pretzels turned out here in a little while. They did not turn out at all. They tasted okay, but they looked terrible. Anyways, this is a skill that I am trying to get better at, and I am going to employ my own advice, which I'm about to share with you guys, on learning a new skill. This is one of the things that I feel like I love to do when it comes to homemaking, is try and learn a new skill. And I have a little bit of a strategy for it, and I want to share that with you guys. Whenever I was learning how to cook, and this is something that I should remember because I always tell my husband this and I tell other people that are trying to learn how to cook, I always got frustrated when people say, oh, don't measure that, or oh, you can skip that step, or I didn't understand that because to me, I didn't know which steps I could skip yet. None of that made any sense to me. And so my strategy whenever it comes to learning a new skill is to first do it the complicated way. It's to first take the time to make this complicated meal plan, find the recipe, follow every single step, get every last spice that you need to make it. And the more often that you do that, whenever you make the soup perfectly, or you make 10 perfect soups, not saying they'll turn out perfect, but you've followed every step, then you'll start to know, okay, like every soup follows a basic formula. You let the onions cook, and then you add broth, and then you add cooked meat, and then the veggies, and then you're done, or whatever. That wasn't the exact right step, but you get the idea of how a meal comes together, and you start to know where you can actually skip some steps. For example, back in the day, if there was a spice that I was missing, I would just not make the recipe. Like I didn't know which ones I could leave out. Whereas now, 99% of the time, if there's a spice that I'm missing, I am simply going to omit that spice and make the recipe the exact same, or I might substitute it with one that I feel is similar. I know now where I can cut corners, where I can skip steps. All that to say, with baking, as you can see, these pretzels kind of turned out to be a disaster, and I have no idea where I went wrong. I don't know what steps I need to be following exactly, or where I messed up. So this is a skill that I definitely need to take the complicated approach to. I need to follow every step. I need to learn every recipe, and then I will start to get a general idea of how all this stuff comes together so that I can make it with maybe a little less fuss in the future. Because I love to learn new skills and try new things, I have now tried enough hobbies to actually see this play out over multiple hobbies. I believe that that is the best strategy for me to learn, and I learned that whenever I started sewing. I think that the best way to learn how to sew is to find a really good indie pattern designer and follow every single step, read every instruction, and don't attempt pattern hacking yet. Don't attempt making your own pattern. Follow every step. And then if you're anything like me, you will start to learn, okay, that's how a garment comes together. I attach the shoulder seams, and then I attach the side seams, and then I ease in the sleeves, and then I hem it. You will start to learn how a garment comes together, so that if you want to take, this is just an example of a video I saw recently, a pattern that doesn't allow for a smocked top and add smocking, you will know how to go about changing that pattern to get the result that you want, rather than just trying to guess or shoot from the hip. You have your basic foundation of knowledge from the experience that you've already made a ton of patterns exactly the way that they were supposed to be made. Taking a quick pause from all this talk about learning to tell you what I have going on in the kitchen here. I am making my own frozen French fries. The reason why we started doing this is because we cannot get through a bag of organic potatoes without them going bad. So now instead I buy several bags at a time, cut them into French fries, blanch them, and freeze them in little portions that we can get through in one sitting. And this gives me the opportunity to have a really easy side in the freezer that I can whip up, and our potatoes don't go bad anymore. I got the potatoes all into the freezer, and later on off camera, once they were frozen solid, I got them put into individual baggies that we could just drop into the fryer and make quickly. Then I got dinner going for the evening. I was actually hosting my in-laws that night, so I got the dough set out, doing its second rise, and started working on prepping all of the toppings that we need to have delicious pizzas. To go back to the topic of learning things, for me and my personality, this method also very much inspires creativity. I feel like I am now at the point with cooking and sewing where I can really dream up some stuff, and I know how to actually accomplish that. So with sewing in particular, like I said, I could maybe take on smocking a top, or I can do some serious pattern hacking and not be too intimidated by it, which yields garments that I really love. When it comes to the kitchen, I am getting much better at coming up with meals on the fly, improvising, and creating things that I actually didn't find on a recipe blog, which is very, very new for me. This method where I learn the basics of a skill makes it to where I can then be really inspired and creative with that particular skill. I personally think there are two conclusions to draw from knowing all of this. One, and I've said this before on my channel, it's okay if you are not natural at cooking. I don't consider myself a natural chef. Honestly, I don't know that anyone is, but I do think it's also very okay if that's just the skill that you are learning at this time. Treat it like a hobby, treat it like learning how to sew, like learning how to crochet, like learning how to do house projects. It can be that kind of skill. If it's not one that excites you, maybe think through a way that you actually can get excited about cooking, because it is unfortunately one of those more necessary skills that we need just to live life. And the second conclusion that I draw from this is that I can learn a lot of skills if I want to, and that I know how to do it. This might not be the best way for you to learn how to do a skill. In fact, hearing this might overwhelm you, but if your personality is anything like mine, this should be a video of encouragement that you could take on baking the way that I want to take on baking, or sewing, or crocheting, or like I said, I could list off hobbies and skills all day long that I would love to get better at, but this is encouraging to me because now I know the pathway in order to do it, and I can just apply it to whatever skill I want. This YouTube channel is essentially just a collection of videos showing you guys what skills I am trying to learn as a young homemaker. One that's really top of mind to me right now is gardening, because it is almost time to start seeds, which I am extremely excited about. I think that learning is one of the most exciting and fun parts of being a stay-at-home mom. Because I have time at home, I have the time and freedom to explore these hobbies that make life so much fun for me. And so I hope that this video is one of encouragement to you and that you might feel inspired to go out, learn a new skill with your kids in tow, and just have fun with life. That is how I view learning, and I hope that this video helps you view it that way too. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me here. I will see you guys here next week on our Sweet Sunny Days.